Hi, my name is Winsley, and welcome to my video diving into screenshots I took from the second gameplay stream covering Primal Fury, which is the third expansion for Age of Wonders 4. Just like I've done with the previous gameplay streams by the devs, I have went through and taken screenshots of all the interesting numbers and mechanics that popped up for a few seconds so that we could look at them in detail together. I will have timestamps below, so if you want to jump to any particular concept or topic, you can do so. I will also be posting these images to the official Age of Wonders 4 form. So if you want to use that, you can look for a link in the description below. Important disclaimer, a lot of the numbers we're going to be looking at today are from relatively early versions of Age of Wonders 4. We still have another expansion that was announced after Primal Fury, which will most likely have a free update accompanying it that will shake up some of the mechanics and numbers that are introduced in Primal Fury and things that were in the game beforehand too. They're always trying to improve the game, which I think is amazing. Um, but yeah, this one is going to be a little bit less than the one last week, the first look at Primal Fury, because, well, they've shown off a lot of the really interesting numbers here, but I still found this to be a very enjoyable stream. I think the personalities that they had on stream were very entertaining. I have seen Thomas Abu Oxel, I forget how to say the name exactly, on quite a few streams before, and I love his personality. He always makes me laugh. Luis Vieira is somebody I've seen on some of the other streams before, and I found his sense of humor pretty funny. I think he pairs well with Voxel. They they made a lot of jokes about the bone worm, and you know, I also really liked Luis's focus on numbers because I could tell at the end of the stream he really wanted to show off more about the tomes and show us all the screenshots that he took. It sounds like he is very aware that people like the screenshots when looking at the new tomes and tried to put that in the dev diary we got this week. And he was also trying to show us interesting things like the Infernal Juggernaut that I know people have been asking about. That wasn't going to come up in the actual game, so Luis just kind of asked Avox to pull it up in the in-game encyclopedia. He actually convinced him to do it, and we got to see this unit is, as you can imagine, a tier 4 shock unit. Some people may have imagined it was a tier 5. We didn't know up until we saw the screenshot, I think, anything about the Infernal Juggernaut. It's an elephant, it looks like, and they have 4 armor, 4 resistance, like basically normalish stats for a tier 4 shock unit. Good movement, 40 movement isn't bad. I forget what the other ones are that we've seen, and if we've actually seen their movement or not. Um, there's quite a few new units being introduced in Primal Fury. We have this Charge Strike. It's a lot of damage. It deals damage to the target and the adjacent enemies. 50% of the damage goes to adjacent things. So if you can get this unit strengthened or something, you can increase the damage that you deal in a relatively decent AoE. It's not like a 2 hex AoE, it's a 1 hex AoE, but on top of that inflicts burning. That seems pretty good in general for a full action attack. It's not a single action. You can't run forward and use the Infernal Stomp, but you do have this other attack, the Charge Strike, which is a normal Charge Strike. It does quite a bit of damage, and it can inflict burning on top of making it so you can displace and replace, which I believe is how war breeds work. They can displace and replace units positioning so that they basically take the positioning of another guy, and that can really like give you better positioning in a fight, really mess up things like the warding that you get from defense mode or the thing that you get from shield units when they go in defense mode. This also comes with Vicious Killer and Vengeful Flames. I believe that Louise was saying that the design is similar to the Nightmare, um, because it's like a fiery animal, a primal fiery animal similar to the Nightmare. I think I was going to look up Necromancer earlier, but we can check out what the Nightmare looks like here. So yeah, in case you forgot, it's got the fire effect on it, and it comes with Vicious Killer, making it so that enemies that are close to enemies that you killed will have more morale penalties. It's very good, and one of those things that people ban putting on heroes because it can get very like it can get a little bit out of control. Morale can be very powerful in this game. Vengeful Flames, I think, does fire damage back to the target when you attack the unit with Vengeful Flames in melee range. I believe it doesn't work with range attacks. It's only on melee range, which makes sense. It'd be hard to send the fire a couple hexes away from like the Infernal Juggernaut or whoever else has Vengeful Flames. I think that's something you can put on heroes as well. You can also get this unit through Fight for Power. That was something else Luis threw in there. He mentioned that if you use this Fight for Power thing, which has two fiends of the same tier in an army fighting to create a new fiend type, this guy counts as a fiend, so you can basically generate this from things like gremlins or anything else that has the fiend type. That's the one that comes to mind immediately. And I know a lot of people were using this to get to Baylors. I forget. I think Baylors are tier 5, so you could probably have two Infernal Juggernauts fight to create a Baylor, but that probably isn't too optimal. I think this unit in general is going to be very valuable and very hard to come by, so if you can get one to generate for you, you're probably going to want to hold on to it and not use Fight to Power on that unit. I probably never put two of these Infernal Juggernauts in the same stack because I'd be afraid to accidentally lose one of them through Fight to Power, through my own like neglect or not paying attention to how things are gonna pan out. There's also a few other changes similar to this. They made it so that your racial units can now become fiend types. They used to have a Demonkin tag, I think, that worked pretty much the same as fiend. You know, basically you have less uh, frost resistance and spirit resistance, but you get more fire resistance and you can walk faster in the desolate terrain. Um, So this will allow you to use the Fight to Power on your own racial units to generate higher tier fiends, and there's some other changes like that in the either Wolf update. I think it would be in the Wolf update because that changes things that are in the game, or Primal Fury may introduce some things like that where you get to use more of the like baseline tags. They also made it so that you can get the Ethereal unit type through the Tome of Astral Convergence. The Astral Attunement used to work differently. I think it give you like pass through and maybe one other thing that the ethereal units would get, but I think ethereal now is better. I think it gives you some extra armor, so you can be quite tanky using something that is generally good at getting resistance. The astral affinity is generally good at getting resistance, so I think this kind of elevates that this tome and that playstyle quite a bit. I know a lot of people were focusing less on mystics because they struggled with the economy aspect of the game, but I think this could help, this plus all the other numerous changes. I think they mentioned something like 36 pages of patch notes for the Wolf update. Maybe it's like 26 to 30 or something along those lines. But it's going to be a lot. It's going to be really interesting to try and adjust to all of those things when we do get them. After that, we have a little bit more information about what this attunement does. It gives you Astral Omen, which makes it so that when a friendly spell is cast, you gain a positive status effect, a random positive status effect. There's a lot of things I think in Primal Fury through the Mist Tome that give you like random positive status effects. So this kind of fits into the theme of taking a gamble to get something potentially really, really good. Like, I don't know, steadfast exactly when you need it, or maybe strengthen to give your unit enough damage to kill an enemy when they wouldn't normally be able to. So not bad. And this goes on basically everybody. It's a major race transformation. So that plus Starblades, which you get from when people cast spells, or there's I think one that gives you extra crit chance as well, could be very good at discouraging people from casting spells or taking advantage of builds that use a lot of spell casting. I've been thinking about trying to play around with that, and when the new stuff does come out. Avoxel is cursed. This is part of the funny stuff that I talked about earlier. We saw evolution die with 39 out of 40 experience. Poor lesser magma spirits. It's just so funny that Avoxel had this happen to him on stream because he said it before. It's happened to him before where his uh, evolution unit is just about to evolve. Like, I can't believe it's literally just 1 XP away from evolving into a tier 3, but no, it dies in this combat because there's 3 heroes in it. But at the same time, you would expect not to lose any units here. I think it said it was a safe battle, and part of me really hopes that they improve the AI so that the evolution units are less likely to run forward and get themselves killed. They're slightly weaker, so they're a little bit easier to kill, and therefore they die a lot in auto combat. But this is a pretty overwhelming uh, advantage, I would say. It's not saying that's a low risk battle, it's saying a safe battle, which I guess means it has estimated you could lose a unit. So, if you really wanted to, you could manual just to keep the unit alive, but they were trying to um, use the streaming time wisely, so they didn't go back and actually save that one unit. Uh, After that, we saw something about Angelic Skeletons, which it's really funny that the AI made this because I think beforehand they used to just do one affinity. They would just do all order, or they would just do all necromancy, or they would do just all astral or nature or something like that. I believe they'd be very mono focused on a single affinity. This one seems to be like they're trying to mix order and necromancy, and it doesn't work very well. There's so many weaknesses on this unit right here. It says -2 blight resistance, -4 fire resistance, -2 spirit resistance, -2 frost resistance. This unit is just going to take a lot of magic damage when people attack it with magic. I mean, it has 7 armor. That's not terrible. But 0 resistance combined with all of this just means you're gonna get deleted very quickly if somebody brings magic to fight you. I guess maybe if they bring lightning magic to fight you, you're not weak to that, so you're okay. But in general, I just found this really funny, really silly, and I can't wait to see what else the AI does with the affinities now, because I believe that they did mention at some point they did change the AI so that it makes more stuff like this. You know me, I mostly play multiplayer. Or if you don't know me, I mostly play multiplayer, so I don't see the AI creating stuff like this too often. It may have been in the game for a while. I just didn't notice. Another really funny thing was this comic that Avoxel posted. I thought it would come through as better quality here. But yeah, basically, somebody was in the last stream from last week saying it'd be really great if we could have trolls as a faction. And this is kind of like the trolls meeting here saying, great news, our ambassador has told us that Voxel, I think the Great Dragon will include us in a tome. I think that's basically saying, um, those are lies. Dragons will never help us. I know goblins has suffered a lot, but my heart, I know the dragon is good. And so this is like my love. This is like a husband and a wife, I think. I'm gonna go off and talk to the great dragon, and they're like, I will protect our child with my life. Um, and then they go on adventures, basically. I can't quite read what this one's saying. I think he's talking to the child. And so they go on an adventure, collect a snake and its twin brother, regroup. Um, Something about water elementals, and then they go off to see the dragon, and Avoxel killed them. So basically, Avoxel's like, yeah, we can make a culture with trolls, kills trolls, and everyone went, stupid troll or filthy troll, or well, we crushed the troll, and it was just like it was too funny for them not to make into a comic strip. I love it. I don't know. Hopefully, I didn't explain it too much, but when I saw this, it really made me laugh. I just wanted to share that with everyone who's watching this video. Um, Part of me wanted to put it right at the top, but I feel like Infernal Juggernaut's a little bit more exciting. That's just me. Oh, and I think this might be his new portrait. I'm not sure what this is on the left, but it's by a concept artist. It looks like it's like maybe what he was going to be or used to be. I can't even remember what Voxel's thing used to be, but I thought it was a dragon similar to this one. Lightbringer is different. Now you can convert with a 90% chance to take over the unit. I think it might last until the end of combat. It's been a while since I looked at the dominated tag. In fact, actually, I think I can look it up here. We're going to look at necromancy soon. So that's the dominated. Dom, no, I can spell. Dominated should show up here. So if we wanted to look at dominate in general, does it say what it does here? Yeah, it doesn't actually give me the list of the stats effect, but yeah, it basically is a mind control that I believe lasts until the end of combat, and then if both units are alive, both the one that did the converting and the unit that got converted, then you can keep them under your control for cost of mana. I believe they also said that the fail changed from maybe weakened to damaged. Just it does 15 damage when that fails, which is generally pretty good. I think I liked the fail thing on Seduce because it would give them distracted, which would make it really easy to kill the unit if you failed the like mind control essentially. Whereas this one used to be yeah just too weak, and they are less likely to deal damage, but maybe you were trying to convert something that doesn't deal damage. Maybe you're trying to convert a support because that would really help you with clearing, or you want a can't imagine what else you would want to convert, but something like that along those lines. Looks like I guess it has Inspiring Killer and Faithful. That might just be how it's built now. Um, it looks like they used to have Faithful, so I could imagine them getting something extra on top of that, like Inspiring Killer. Kind of like we saw the, I think Infernal Juggernaut had something like Vicious Killer. Inspiring Killer, I think, boost your own morale. It's been a minute since I looked at that one. Voxel's favorite pre-made ruler appeared in this realm, Vaneyra. I don't think this one's like particularly unique, but it was cool that they talked a little bit about the internal contest for designing these rulers. It sounds like they had a lot of fun trying to come up with unique people building unique like visuals to go with them, and I like the idea of like a little contest to do that. I don't believe we've heard about them talk about that before, so that was a nice little like behind the scenes peek at how things get done. We also got to see something about farms changing. I think, yeah, so when you are a tunneling spider primal culture person, you're supposed to be able to build farms underground, and they noticed last week that basically they weren't able to do that. And so they went back and changed it so that you are actually able to do this mechanic the way it's described in the dev diary, the way it's intended to work. I'm still not sure why you would want to farm. Farms are generally not what people build. They'll get like maybe one or two to get some boosts, but I think it's one of those things that people um, have talked about being one of the weaker ones. But what's interesting about all the primal cultures is that they can get to farms more easily because all of them can build farms in their favored terrain type, which I think brings me to favored terrain type. There's a few points in here that they discussed, like how uh, Spider knowledge income has been reduced to +2 instead of +3 in the favored thing because people were saying that +3 was just way too good. It really was. The numbers that we were seeing from the adjacency bonuses were absurd and would be even better if you took something like Hermit Kingdoms to boost your knowledge income. I think there's other things out there that you could try and boost your knowledge outcome. But I think even +2 is too good. I think +1 might be too good. Um, but that's only because knowledge is generally the best resource in the game. I mean, if you're on a small map, you want to focus less on knowledge, but you always want it because that allows you to get to the better toys, which generally is how you win most combats. Just having more units is not a very good strategy most of the time because of the way different tier units compare to each other. The tier 1 units fall off relatively quick, at least when you compare it to Age of Wonders Planetfall or like previous Age of Wonders games. I did notice in the screenshot that I grabbed here that they were still getting, I think, +6 knowledge per adjacent mushroom forest from the special um, province improvement, the Megalith. But it was supposed to be down to +4 per adjacency terrain. I'm just not sure if that worked because they started this game with a different version of this thing. They built it as a different version. Who knows? Maybe it's like a visual thing and it actually is giving you different numbers. I'm not too sure. Necromancy. So I did have Necromancer up here earlier because they changed this from a tier 3 into a tier 2. So what I noticed in the combat was that raise undead still can target non-undead corpses to be raised as decaying zombies. So you can still use the Sleep of Oblivion spell with the Necromancer to basically delete the corpse while it's in the sleep um, mode. Basically it like turns into a body on the floor while it's asleep and then it comes back. I don't think Sleep of Oblivion is actually implying it falls asleep. It's like pulling you elsewhere. But yeah, let's get the Necromancer up here so that we can look at what it used to get. It used to be 80 health, 2 armor, 4 HP, and now it looks like it is a 72 health and 2 armor, 4 resistance. So those aren't too different. The frost is, I think, down from 20 damage to maybe like 16. I should have grabbed a screenshot of that. But it's still single action. And the main thing that I wanted to mention was this raise undead. Yeah, it works the same way as from what I can tell. It's once per battle. Pretty sure this is once per battle, and then it still has the strengthen thing, which looks like it is still leave one. So I believe that would probably work the same way. But it's cool. it looks like they haven't changed it too dramatically. Necromancers were always pretty fun, but I didn't like them with the Sleep of Oblivion spell. It's just too good. They just like die and then they come back to health 2 turns later. I mean, one thing you can do is just sit on top of that hex to keep them from coming back, but that can backfire if you like have a summon, which happened in this stream. If you have a summon that like disappears at the end of your turn, you can't block a spawn with that summon because the unit will spawn in after your unit disappears. We got to see the mist. We hadn't seen the mist before. This one's not a very exciting picture of the mist. It was like one of the first times you got to see the mist in the battle, and it has butterflies in it, which is I love that little particle effect. It's a very small little detail, but there's just a bunch of those in Age of Wonders. I don't think this is gonna like affect performance too dramatically. It just looks neat. What I really loved with the mist was seeing it on the strategic level once they had the Fey Pond Mist. I agree with I think it was Luis who said this gives like some really like some necromancy vibes because it just looks like the cold, like damp fog that you would see underground in a necromancer's cave or something like that. It's fun. Almost looks like something might be rotting over here, eh? It's got some like weird green gas hanging out. It's definitely something that you can role play with and come up with your own stories to go along with the visual. But yeah, this is very eye catching. I'm very impressed with what the art team has done with not just like the uh, the maps, but also the units. I think the units are just so beautiful. Um, Feywater Pond, I think they talked about that before. Uh, you know, it's pretty good. It spreads the mist across the domain. Um, there's a hard hero cap and a hero timer now. I believe I missed at the bottom of the screen where it shows the oh boy, I took another screenshot of it and put it down here, didn't I? I think yeah, here it shows basically increased hero cap is something that you need to spend money on. I think even if they had the gold at this point, they would have to wait until they could increase their hero cap. Here it says new heroes cannot be recruited until the hero cap increases. So I'm fairly certain that's how the new hero cap works. It's kind of like a hard hero cap that you can passively wait for it to increase, or you can actively press a button that costs you quite a bit of Imperium to get. So yeah, let's just go back up here. I think we were on right here, the hero cap. Vantage point was in the game, but it was very easy to miss, so I decided to just throw it in here. Vantage point says that if you're standing like on a battlement, I think it is, you get extra range and you ignore obscuring on ranged targets, which is something that's going to be more common now. I think miss counts as something like obscuring, so you may be able to counteract that with um, this mechanic with battlements essentially by playing defensively. I know they showed off new helmets at the beginning of the last stream, but I have to be honest, I just skipped past it. And now I'm seeing them like, oh, that's cool. You get a little crocodile mouth around your guy. There's some horns, and I think this one, the feathers might be new. I think they added some feathered creatures in Empires and Ashes, so this one could be from all the way back then. I just hadn't noticed it before. There's also this helmet, which I think they showed off in the stream as well. You can put that on heroes if you really like this serpent looking thing. You can put it on your heroes as well, and I'm sure it makes them look very menacing. We I think he got to see Storm Strikes and throw Storm Trident in the actual dev diary, so I figured I wouldn't talk about them here. But they seem very good. I think this unit is going to be very mobile and very powerful. It's going to be able to move across the field, avoiding getting too close to dangerous targets with its throw Storm Trident, and be able to hit multiple units with it. I think it's like um, a three hex line damage, so it just does. It's kind of like an AOE, but it's just in a line. Um, and I think it's single action, so you can hit things that are pretty far away from you. Quite a few things that are pretty far away from you. Um, and do a lot of damage to them. It just means that you don't want to have this unit all by itself when it's going on the offense because um, it might be kind of close to the enemy if that's the way you play it with the Storm Trident. Storm Strikes does jump to other enemies, and there are things that allow heroes to do that as well now. I'm not sure if I'm going to like that once I get to multiplayer. I have a feeling that that's something that people were taking advantage of a lot in Age of Wonders Planetfall. I kind of got old having people just jump damage to my back line. I think they reduced the jumping damage to just 20%, so um, It might be more for applying stats effects than for dealing outright damage, but stats effects can do a lot of damage. Like if you wanted to, I think you can stack poison up to 5 times to deal 8 times 5 damage, maybe 40 just blight damage at the end of an enemy's turn. We now get a quest marker for an enemy ruler. When you take their throne, you can see where on the map the enemy is, so it's easier to go track them down and kill them. I'm not sure if I love that. I kind of wish that was toggleable because that's going to make a big impact in the 1v1 skirmishes. If somebody loses their capital and they're trying to like rebuild up for whatever reason, I have seen it done before. Um, Having the enemy know exactly where your ruler is just going to mean the game's over a lot faster, which is probably not the end of the world. If they take your capital, you probably are going to lose that match anyways, specifically in a 1v1, maybe not in a single player experience or bigger multiplayer where you have other people to kind of like bounce off of, to build off of. They made it so that the visual is no longer always there. If you don't like the visual effect for something like poison arrows, or if it's kind of like giving you a headache seeing all the bright colors, you can turn that off by clicking this button, and then it'll look like this. And then you can just click it back on. It'll have the green little particle effect on the, I think the arrow itself gets very green when you put poison arrows on. I'm not sure about the bow, but I think the arrow does. um, there's another really cool thing that I noticed, I think like halfway through the stream or so. You can now get this elemental down at the very bottom. You can get lesser elementals from Rally of the Lieges. I asked some people in Discord about that, and they were saying that you were always supposed to be able to get elementals from things like Rally of the Lieges, but that was bugged, and you weren't getting access to all of the things that you're supposed to be able to get from them. So now you can. You're going to be able to get elementals that I think get extra ranks. I think you can recruit guys using like an order thing that gives you more ranks on things that you get through Rally of the Lieges. And one really interesting thing about this is that Magma Spirit only costs 1 point. It's cheaper than I think most tier ones. Well, it's at least cheaper than tier twos. Tier ones might be 1 rally point, but in general, I would probably get quite a few elementals through Rally of the Lieges if I had access to it. Can't wait to actually play around with that. And then I think this is just like a screenshot I got of a wolf guy. He's cool. It's just I think yeah, Free City that joined an empire. Bone horrors are now a tier 3 that leave a corpse which can't be revived. I may have mentioned that last week. I think I had. And we now have something called Corpse Cage. This says that when this unit gets to 50% of its HP or lower, it summons a decaying zombie. Does not function in water battles. I think I've seen that tag a few times recently, which makes me feel like maybe I want to focus on water empires. I know there's a new water thing called Bounty of the Sea, and the thing that gives you the Stormbringer unit, the new tier 4 that we were just looking at. So that could be fun to just play around with. I'm not terribly sure. We'll see. I've also mentioned a cap on upkeep, which is kind of like the vantage point. Is something that's in the game but easy to forget about, or just not realize in the first place. But I think you're saying it's 50%. You can't go under 50% what a unit should cost. I bet if I look up skeleton here, we can see what it's supposed to be. Yeah, its summit is 6, so I think that is reduced down to 3. But it can't go past 3 here, and then the unit enchantment takes it back up to 6 mana. So it almost looks like there is no discount there. Um, and yeah, I think there's one last thing that I saw here actually this morning when I was getting ready to record this. Voxel mentioned that Hermit Kingdoms um, I think actually all cities can now abandon provinces so that it's easier for you to avoid getting your Hermit Kingdoms production reduced, because Hermit Kingdoms don't want to be next to anybody else. They want to be far away. And if somebody just builds like a single outpost, or if you build an outpost next to it, I think it says, yeah, any domain that's not your own, including your own cities or outposts, then it cause problems for your hermit cities. So that's great. That's fantastic. I can't wait to see what else there is. There was one other interesting thing that people pointed out on the official Discord. They showed that basically the Warbreed and heroes with weapons like the Bloody Edge lose their heavy charge, and that would allow them to get around charge resistance on things like polearms. Things like polearms wouldn't have to deal with the fact that when they get hit with a normal charge strike or a normal shock unit attack, then they wouldn't have their defense mode canceled and they wouldn't have their retaliation canceled, which was pretty good. But the fact that things like roar breeds could get around that charge resistance on pole arms, I think was a little bit counterintuitive to a lot of people. So my guess is they decided to just try and simplify things a little bit and put charge resistance on less units. Maybe the lower level pole arms, they don't have charge resistance, but I would imagine something like this higher tier gold golem, they probably aren't supposed to have their defense mode and their retaliations taken away from a simple charge strike off of like a tier one shock unit. So that's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting to see that they're changing things like that as well. That's everything I have for you this week. I'll see you around. Have a good one.